So in today's video, I wanted to use an analogy and not just an analogy like I would usually use, whereas I use it as one of my main talking points, but I wanted to also show you an illustration of the analogy and how it relates to the title of the video. So as you see on the screen, and this is on behalf of CarMax. This is a 2017 Lexus SUV, short for sport utility vehicle. Now, a lot of you may say, first and foremost, that this is almost a 10-year-old vehicle, and it is. And if you pay close attention, it's 127,000 miles. But that doesn't still take away the simple fact that it is a high-end vehicle by it being a Lexus, which is the much more higher end division of Toyota. But for some of you who may not know, Lexus happens to be a division, or Toyota, I'm trying to say, excuse me, a much more high-end, luxurious division. And even if this car is around 18 years old, well, not 18 years old, but 8 years old, once again, my apologies. And a lot of you would still, if you had the chance and could afford it, because the price is $25,998, and I'm assuming that's based upon JD by Riders estimate of what the manufacturer suggested retail price should be. Anyways, and nonetheless, some of you still wouldn't mind driving a vehicle, even if it is 8 years old of this caliber, due to it being a Lexus. Because some of you may look at, even if it may be an older Lexus or as old as a 2007, in some instances older than that, although at the same time, the average vehicle that's on the road today is usually between 10 to 12 years old. Once again, even if this vehicle is almost 10 years old, it still wouldn't negate the simple fact that, or doesn't negate the simple fact that it's a pretty high-end vehicle. Now, with that being said, I wanted to show you some pictures of the interior. And as you can see, the interior, to be almost 8 years old, is pretty up to date, as opposed to just as up to date as opposed to the interior of some of today's vehicles, the most newest vehicles. That's the navigation system. And it has Sirius XM radio for some of you who may be into satellite radio. That's the steering wheel. It comes with Bluetooth technology, as in the case with most of today's vehicles. That's a close-up of it. The mileage, 126,000 miles, so it's pretty high. Although, and once again, the vehicle is over 8 years old. That's the key fob. That's the infotainment system, which is what the most up-to-date, all the most up-to-date vehicles as far back as a 2015 usually may come with. That's the moonroof, sunroof, however you would say it. Rear view camera, radio stations. Now, let me go back to my gallery and read to you exactly some of the features and amenities that it has. A third row seat is 4-wheel drive. It has a sunroof, parking sensors, blind spot mirror, air-conditioned seats, a navigation system like I just stated, running boards, leatherette seats, short, well, which is just another form of leather seats, a rear view camera like I just stated and showed, a premium package, whatever is meant by that, even a CD player, believe it or not. And due to how the majority of automobiles now, the more newer automobiles don't even much come with a CD player anymore. Interesting. It has a universal garage door opener as well, power locks, and that's pretty common for a car around that year range. Power mirrors, power windows, side airbags, daytime running lights, alloy wheels, ABS brakes, a rear defroster, traction control. Now, let me stop sharing this here screen so I can be able to share you another screen on behalf of TikTok, and it's also pertaining to a single mother. Now, listen closely. First and foremost, I wanted to listen to one of you guys to listen to her giving her ideal man and all the standards that he must be, which are ridiculously high, and I consider also absolutely delusional. So I'm going to go to TikTok and let you hear.
These are the requirements that you need to have in order to date me, a single mom of 3 kids. Number one is that you need to be making at least 130K a year, and you need to have at least 2 side hustles. If you cannot make 130K or more, then you are out of my fucking league. How do you expect to give me money for my kids if you only make 50K a year? Second is I don't date men that are younger than me because for obvious reasons. So if you are 26 and over, then you qualify. 26 to 35 is the age limit. Okay, I feel like 35 is pushing it because they look old as fuck already. Oh, I'm 26. I'm a baby. So yeah, you have to have at least 3 cars under your name. Your second car has to have 8 seats because I have 3 kids. So I want them to be comfortable whenever we go with you on a trip or something. You want me to come with you? I'm gonna bring my kids, and you need to have enough space for my kids. So that's why I require you to have an SUV and a vehicle of your own if you're going to be dating me. Another requirement is that you have to have a property under your name, and you have to be looking into getting your second property. You have to get a home that has 6 rooms because each of my kids have to be in their own room. So you have to be considerate. Purchase a house that has 6 rooms because that's only common sense. And if you cannot meet those requirements, then you're not the fucking one. The last requirement is that it has to be pink. If it's not pink, no. Pink and brown go together. Pink and brown. Like, what?
Now, after showing this here lady who you already know is a single mother, judging by the caption and judging by also how she said her ideal man has to meet so many delusional standards. And on behalf of how I just showed the 2017 Lexus, which some of you still will be happy to take, even if it's almost 10 years old, due to it being a Lexus, and even if it's at over 120,000 miles, which makes it even more of a depreciated asset. In addition, once you were to drive that Lexus off the lot, it's already, like I clearly stated, almost 10 years old, and it's that much more lower in value because according to the average price of a much more newer Lexus by the same exact make, model, and trim, that same Lexus in 2025 dollars would range at every bit of 50 grand or a little bit over 50 grand with the same features, amenities as well. Still, once you were to drive that 2017 Lexus off the lot, it will go down to a few dollars, the value of it, from 25,000 to perhaps 20,000 even, possibly lower than that. Once again, it's already a depreciating asset, as you clearly see by it being over 100,000 miles, even if it is a Lexus, which is a pretty high-end vehicle. Now, compared to that, listen closely. This here lady, who I would say is not unattractive by a long shot, but she still is a depreciated asset, not due to her looks, but due to her, first and foremost, being closer to 30, 26 years old, because when the more older women get in age, the lower their sexual value usually gets. On top of that, she has more than one kid, which makes her even more of a depreciated asset. And it's no telling how many dads her kids may have, which is already a red flag, that much more of a red flag. It's even if she may have had just one kid, hypothetically speaking, she still will be a red flag to the average man without kids at all, and be considered a depreciated, I'm trying to say, asset, so to speak, due to her having kids at all, even if she may have had hypothetically one kid, because there are men, and I'm just gonna call a spade, without kids at all, who can't even date a woman with even one kid. Although, and to be honest, for the men who don't have kids at all, but may want a woman without, or just one kid, it would be hard nowadays to find one with even one kid, especially at this latest age of 26 years old. On top of that, a man that wants to get with her and become intimate with her, whether he may have kids of his very own from a previous relationship, or even if he may not have kids at all, he also faces a high risk of being infected with more than one STD on top of that, which makes her that much more of a depreciating asset, so to speak. Okay, so similar to that, with the 2017 Lexus at over 100,000, well, 120,000 miles. Once you were to do all your paperwork, talk to a car salesperson, whether it may be either a sales woman or salesman, drive that vehicle off the lot. Once again, after taking so much pride in having it, due to it being a high-end / luxury vehicle on behalf of being a Lexus, you still would face the chances of any time that vehicle stopping on you while in traffic. You will also face a high risk of that vehicle either having worn out head gasket, worn out radiator, if not that having or needing major suspension work, whereas it may be in desperate need of shocks. Well, I'm trying to say shocks, as in SHOCK, struts, and alignment. Just give you a few examples of taking on the risk of having a vehicle that old. Once again, even if it is a Lexus, and due to how the average Lexus has a reputation of holding up a very long time by it being a division of Toyota as well, and due to how Toyotas have a pretty good reputation of lasting a very long time, some which you could get as many as 400,000 miles on, in some cases higher than that. Anyways, and once again, my point of using this comparison is due to the simple fact that with most single mothers, whether you women, and excuse me as I drink this Red Bull, may hate to hear this or not, and I will not quit stressing it enough, you are depreciated, and I am so sorry for stumbling across my words, which I have a habit of doing from time to time. Let me try to say it and make it as clear to understand as possible. You face the chances of being a depreciating asset, single mothers, due to you already being high in mileage, so to speak, very similar to that Lexus I just showed on behalf of CarMax. You also face a high risk of having an STD, in some cases more than one STD. And if you were to get with a man who may have to take on the role of being a stepdad to your kids from a previous relationship, in some instances of marriage, a previous marriage, that man still faces a high risk of possibly being infected when either one STD or multiple STDs, because some of you single mothers usually have picked some of the most toxic men to have kids with that you could find. Men who may happen to be infected with multiple STDs, especially if they may be men who may either be on a DL or men who may have done prison time, because it's a well-known fact guys who have been incarcerated face a high chance while incarcerated of being sexually assaulted by their fellow inmates. Therefore, that's why the STDs, I would say that's one reason why the number of STDs are becoming more and more rapid on behalf of so many females being infected with STDs due to how they pick those types of men to usually reproduce with. Anyways, make sure to like, share, comment. Last but not least, subscribe to the channel. And I'm out.